we send millions of cold emails every day for
Hmm.
our customers, and we analyze every single successful campaign. We know exactly what's working, what's not,
Hmm.
and how to turn any company that you know can get any replies right now into the company that whose biggest problem is where I'm gonna find that many account executives.
Okay, so we have entered the next dimension with cold email. All of our inboxes are cluttered with AI, spam, sales emails, and no one wants another email to find them well. But even with all the cold email madness, I personally am still very bullish on the impact that marketers and salespeople can have with cold email. And I'll get into some of those ideas as we kind of get into our conversation here in a bit. Some very respectful people in my network who are marketers and salespeople who run cold email campaigns have raved about this platform called Maildoso. So I've been personally using Instantly as my tool and had moderate to good success. I mean, we've sold accounts through cold email, which I guess we could call a success. But when I keep hearing good things about one, constantly hearing good things about one specific platform, Meldoso, I have to know more. So I thought, I have a podcast, right? This will be the great opportunity to just go right to the top and interview the founder CEO of Meldoso. So today, my guest is Nikita Bykadarov, founder CEO of Maildoso, and he's going to talk to us about his secret sauce for both growing his company using cold email and cold email as a tool for marketers and salespeople. So I'm super excited for this conversation. Welcome to the show, Nikita.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, as you can tell, I'm excited about this because I think this is like the here and now. We're early January 2025. People we've been using cold email for marketers and salespeople for years, and I think things come in waves, uh, in trend, right? And I think cold email is sort of at a tipping point now where uh, you got a lot of bad actors that want to scale quickly and they want to go straight to making lots of money, and they think, well, we've got the right solution, we just put it in front of millions of people, and of course we're going to sell business, which is not always true. So it kind of puts a bad taste in everyone's mouth when they hear cold email. But as marketers, even though we're receiving these emails and we do feel this, we also have to think about how are we going to reach our audiences, because we have the same problem. And so cold email is on the table, right? And I'm just like, okay, well, cold email has to be considered as a possible tool, just like back in the day, direct mail, was overused, but it was used properly by some people. So I'm excited about this conversation. Before we get into it, though, tell us a little bit about your background and like how'd you end up where you are.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for asking. And before going into this, I received like a handful of beautiful cold emails, and some of them end up big deals for like we end up buying from those people. And I believe it depends on like your writing skills. You can
Mm.
absolutely crush it with cold email, and I know so many success stories. uh, uh, like if you don't say like I hope this email finds you well in
Yeah,
your cold emails, like you're already like in the top 1% performers.
that's a pretty low bar
Yeah,
right there.
yeah. But my journey with cold email started, I don't remember exactly, but the Maildoso is my eighth company. Of course,
Mm.
I had like full time job, and most of them were launched as side gigs.
Mm-hmm.
And for most of them, I was using like cold email to promote them to find clients,
Mm-hmm.
and well, with different level of success. It was a like um, very interesting journey.
Mm-hmm.
And my previous company, it was a marketplace for SEO professionals. I can like it was kind of successful. So
Mhm.
we had like over 600 clients, and all of them were we use only cold email to promote our service because we had to be like very targeted in our outreach.
Mhm.
E- so we wanted to reach out only to those people who it makes sense to reach out to. For example, if we have a lot of partners on our
Mhm.
marketplace in cybersecurity space, we only want to go after other security, like other blogs in security space.
Mhm.
It might not make sense to go after something else, and because of that we couldn't run ads. So we quickly realized that our biggest bottleneck is like how many cold emails per day we can send and how fast we can parse,
Uh,
websites, parse data, parse Google and stuff. So we like quickly start, building our own infrastructure. It all starts with like we had a full-time employee who was setting up mailboxes, domains and stuff, but then we start automating some of those operations. And then at some point we were sending over 10,000 cold emails per day. And then it was a after a few very interesting conversations with my friends, I was sharing with them how we do outbound. And in fact, our cold email tech stack was a lot. So we were investing into cold email a lot more than we invested, in our product. So
mhm.
like it was like the product was simple, but the cold email infrastructure way more complex, and it was and we spent on it the vast majority of our time. And when I was sharing with my friends how we do cold email, they said, "Wow, can you teach me how to do the same?" I'm like, I do cold email, but it's not nearly as good, or I want to do cold email. I need to learn this stuff. It was like, it's going to be very tough to teach how to do this. Probably I can just automate something for you, just, like make
Mhm.
I don't know, a page where you can like, enter all your details and get what you need, get your mailboxes ready. So me and my co-founder, we spent a weekend building, a prototype, building a landing page. So we
Mhm.
launched it. We launched with a cold email campaign just to see how it goes, and we immediately saw a demand for this. So at this time at Backlink Swappers, there was 6 people, and like including myself, so my co-founder and 4 other employees. So I remember at some point I realized that this thing can become a lot more successful than backlink swappers, and we just need to pivot a company. So we had this, call with people where I was sharing, okay, look what this is, the a landing page we built. This is the results. So it makes sense to pivot. So and we
Yeah.
pivoted, and now we are here.
So that makes a lot of sense. So this came out of just necessity. You built something that was working for you, and
Yeah,
some other people ask. I mean, that's the classic, success
exactly.
story. How did you come up with the name? I think it's a great name.
Oh, thank you. I don't know. Um So I live in Uruguay, and it's in Latin America, of course. So I wanted to, have something like with Spanish. Initially, I thought about it should be like a Spanish name, the brand name, but then end up with Maildoso. Um, I actually came up with the name while just walking. Um, you know,
So
on
it's
my
sort of
walk.
an inspirational type of thing that came to you.
Kind of, yeah,
Yeah. And I'll just cut just as a side note here. I know in our intro call we were talking, and you said you're originally from Russia,
yeah,
and then you had to move because of all the war and everything that's happening with Ukraine.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I think that's a fascinating part of the story because you're well. Actually, I would ask you: did you start building Meldoso before you moved, or was this something later?
Um, So the backlink swappers I started before I moved.
Hmm.
I actually like buy this. I bought this domain in Serbia in airport when I was traveling. This idea just came to my mind when I was there. But then we pivoted the company here in when I was already here after a year of living in Uruguay. Yeah.
And was this something that you bootstrapped, or did you look for investors to get you started, or how'd you do that?
It's actually like a funny story because um, I had a few attempts to raise capital, and so I thought, okay, I need to talk to somebody who already did that in the past. So I set up a few calls with my friends, and they said, okay, you need to get prepared for, this is going to be your full time job for the next couple of months. And I was like, shit, in 2 months I can quadruple like my company. So like I just don't have enough time for this. So we
Yeah,
end up bootstrapping. I
yeah.
actually wanted to raise capital. I think we would um, be in a we would have grown much faster if we had one,
Hmm.
but end up bootstrapping just because I was too busy.
Yeah, no, that makes sense though. I mean, sometimes you can hit the ground running much faster and actually get to market and see results instead of waiting and spending all your time and
Yeah.
energy with investors. Is it now in your foresight? I mean, do you still are you thinking about going back now and raising around for your next phase?
Um, Not right now, maybe later. So
Hmm.
right now, I don't think we need this at this stage, but maybe later it would make sense.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I have conversations with investors who invest heavily into this go to
Mhm.
market segment. Um, so
Okay, well, let's get into your story of building Meldoso, and we talked about your first year of growth. And we've been touching on it a little bit here, and you how you use cold email almost exclusively to grow it, which I thought was awesome because it's really just pointing to the tool that you're using that you're building. It's all there. So take us through what did that look like day one to I don't know how long have you been in operating?
um, a little bit over a year now.
Okay.
So we started with like the initially even before we made a website, we launched a cold email campaign just to check if there is demand for something like this. Initially with low volume, and then we spent a few months. So we had like a major constraint. Like we had so many limitations on the supply side, so we couldn't. In other words, we couldn't keep up with demand
Hmm.
for a lot of time. And we were so just to give you a perspective. At some point, we shut down any marketing activities for a whole month,
Hmm.
just because like my engineering team said no, we cannot take any more customers. Like,
Right.
yeah, like otherwise our servers will die.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it,
I
kind
mean,
of.
it's a
It's
problem. I mean, it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
problem
It
for
was
sure,
a
right?
yeah. It was
But it's
a
an
very.
amazing problem to have.
Everybody said that, but it was a very tough period of time because you have to grow because
Yeah.
you have salaries and stuff, and then you cannot actually do this because of the technical like things, and then you have to figure out something like very quickly. And on the other side, you have your current customers that expect some level of quality,
Mhm.
and there was there were moments where our servers were just down for a day or two,
Ooh,
and it's
yeah,
like for some companies
yeah,
it's a
that's not
lot.
good.
Yeah, there was quite a few moments like that.
Yeah.
um, Thankfully we rebuilt our platform. Initially we just we tried to build everything quick and dirty, and ending up rebuilding it anyways and investing way more resources, but this is the way. And then so with cold email, I believe that cold email can be number one customer acquisition channel for pretty much any B2B company.
Hmm.
So if you do B2B, then cold email is for you. That's for sure. It's hard for me to come up with niches where it wouldn't work.
Hmm.
And the only reason why, if a company is not like is not crushing it with cold email, is only because they probably don't have right source of information on how to do this.
Hmm.
That's why we right now we want to launch our coaching program, and just to show people, because we send millions of cold emails every day for
Hmm.
our customers, and we analyze every single successful campaign. We know exactly what's working, what's
Hmm.
not, and how to turn any company that you know can get any replies right now into the company that whose biggest problem is where I'm gonna find that many account executives.
Right.
Yeah. And that's true. I mean, our top 10% of customers, the biggest customers, they are happiest people on earth. Every time I talk to
Yeah.
them, they smiling,
Yeah.
and then
And that's because they're utilizing the tool properly and they have an adequate volume of leads, is what you're saying.
yeah, and also the mindset. Quite often, what bring them to this category is how they think.
Hmm.
And quite often, like for example, there are a lot of lead gen agencies that can outsource lead gen for companies. And when I talk to most of them, I say, like, guys, I know very lucrative niches for you where you can just you know you will be in a way better position than you are right now. And I explain them in details, like what they need to change in their product offering, who they
Mm.
need to go after, like in details. And even sometimes even I can show them success stories.
Yeah, that's
and
amazing.
and for some reason, most of them don't copy this approach. I don't know why. And
Well,
it's
yeah, that's what I find. That's what's fascinating about it because I have been that person where I think I know better, right? It's such a weird thing that like because it's like one on one side of it, you have to really know your audience to know how to message correctly to them. I mean, that's getting to the formula.
yeah.
But then I think I've been guilty of that as well, where I feel like I know them better. Like if you were coaching me, right, I would feel like I know them better and what would resonate with them better than you do. But you're coming at it from purely mechanical, like the tool side of it. So there's some kind of happy medium there where I might feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it's going to work. That type of balance there. So explain that. I mean, how does that work? I mean, why is it that way?
It's just like, I mean, we have over 2,000 customers. By the time this show will go out, maybe much more. And of course, we see what the companies that doing cold email successfully
Hmm.
versus those who don't. Like, what's the difference? What do they do differently?
Hmm.
And because we see so many cases, like success and non-success stories,
Hmm.
I can tell, like exactly, I don't know, like couple of points where if you just change what you do here, there, and there, and it will make 90% of the difference. Just
Mm.
because I saw hundreds other cases where the
Yeah.
only thing that distinguish like separate successful and non-successful
Yeah.
cases is like this.
Well,
And
you're
that's
seeing
it.
all the patterns,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for that first year of growth from of Meldoso, and you're using primarily cold email for that growth,
Yeah.
um, what did that trajectory look like from kind of day one to your end of 12 months, and in terms of like revenue and revenue that was brought in by cold email?
Vast majority of our revenue came from cold email.
Hmm.
At some point, we start adding other channels, and recently we launched, for example, retargeting.
Hmm.
We work a lot of with creators on different social media platforms,
Hmm.
um, and there was a lot of moments when we were shutting down all our marketing activities just because like we couldn't keep up with demand.
Yeah.
Um, we started with only with cold email, and for first probably 6 months we didn't do anything else, and we were growing, rapidly,
Yeah.
um, but way slower than we wanted. So like we only recently became comfortable enough in our infrastructure where when like we can say, okay, let's double down on marketing, and now we have a head of marketing, we have like marketing team that drive that drives our growth.
Hmm.
um, yeah.
Because
um,
originally you had to you grew through cold email. It's very
yeah,
transactional. Are you still using cold email as part of your mix?
yeah, for sure.
Okay. And is
And
it still driving most of your uh, closed leads?
not most. Right now, I would say most of the leads come from somebody recommend us to their friends.
Okay.
Um, just every time I ask, I hear people saying like, "Hey, one of my
Yep.
friends recommended me." Yeah,
Yep.
and I guess that also our biggest customer, big chunk of our biggest customers came through somebody referred them.
Hmm.
Um, so but
And that I can affirm that because that's how I ended up here talking to you and looking at your tool more in detail. Um, it's interesting because it sounds like you use cold email to grow in the first year, go to market, and you've now it's found its sort of balance in your mix of marketing, and now you're growing more brand because if people are coming to you by referral and through these social influencers and various other places, you're now, I mean, you have a product that has a reputation, which is your brand, and it's becoming visible in front of your audience outside of transactional cold email. So you guys are now growing that in a much more full marketing. There's a big more of a marketing strategy that's happening there.
yeah, that's true. Also, it helps, the brand helps with cold email quite
Hmm.
often. And the last couple of weeks, I because we testing new product offering for
Hmm.
new audience, I jump on sales calls, and my calendar is fully packed with sales calls right now. It's
Yeah.
like, how did I end up in this? Just to give you a concept, just last couple of days we had like a strategic session with my team. So we were planning, Q1,
Yeah.
how like what's going to be like what's going to be our OKRs for Q1 and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like 7 hours call. It just and then after this 7 hours call, I also had like five, six
Oh wow.
sales calls that booked from outbound just because I forgot to block the rest
Oh
of my
yeah.
day.
I know that.
And
I
then
know that. Yep.
it was tough. And then I also have a lot of these calls for the next couple of days,
Yeah.
just because I wait too long to say my team, can you please stop sending my calendar,
Yeah.
and like, yeah. So and every time I'm on a call with, not every time, but quite often, I'm on a call with people who's not in the cold email space, but they
Oh.
clearly they did their homework. They did some research about us, and they jump on a call with a slightly different attitude. I
Yeah.
remember like early call, like sales calls that I had, it was a um, completely different um, attitude
Hmm.
from customers. So investing, if you do cold email, investing in your brand, it totally makes sense. It will just make your conversations more warm, and
Hmm.
sometimes you will just sometimes you jump on a call and they already ready to buy. I can tell it in the first 10
Yep.
seconds, and that's
Yep.
it. Like, okay, so just I want to want to waste more of
Yeah.
your time. So
Yeah,
like,
that's true. That's true demand right there that you've built, and that's amazing. I mean, that's the gold standard, I think, for marketers and for companies with good, solid products and solutions. Um, so, congrats on that. I mean, it's I'd be remiss to say. Um, so this is great. Like you obviously have done really well using cold email as a tool as you're building your company, go to market, and now you're expanding your strategy to include brand building and other things. What's the secret sauce? Like when we look at cold email, there's a bunch of marketers and salespeople and founders listening. Uh, what would you tell them to focus on? All the patterns that you've seen and all the companies you've worked with sending cold emails. What are some of the top things that you would tell them to do?
okay, number one thing is to like adjust your offer, like literally. So the for so let's frame it this way. There are certain businesses that are naturally built for SEO, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and there are companies that doing very well in SEO space, and there are some niches where it's not, it doesn't make any sense to do SEO. Like, we don't do SEO; it doesn't make any sense for us. Um, Not that many search queries out there for what we do. Um, And the same true for cold email. But with cold email, the good news is that sometimes you can adjust your business model if you want to make cold email your number one customer acquisition channel. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to adopt, and quite often, like, and that every agency knows that offer is the single, like, I talk to lead gen agencies a lot, and they all have clients that they don't have any problems to booking meetings for, and then other clients where they just struggle to book any meetings
Mm-hmm.
because their offer is not that good.
Yeah.
And and what you can do in this situation is just to start adjusting your offer, knowing that you will email people that don't know you,
Yeah.
they don't trust you, they don't want to commit for they want to see some kind of social proof and stuff. They don't want to carry a risk. So in other words, your offer should be risk free and stuff. So if you want to really um, uh, be successful with cold email, also the size of the market. So this is one of the things that people forget about, is that for what how many people out there is your total addressable market. Sometimes if you end up in a situation where only 2,000 people in the world is your potential customers, I have bad news for you.
When it
Yeah.
comes to cold email.
Yeah, when it comes to cold email and many other channels, yeah,
Yeah.
It's a lot easier if your tom is huge,
Yeah.
because you have a lot more room. Um, and then so you can adjust your product offer. uh, and just to give you a perspective, we have in the early days we had a very solid product offer for lead gen agencies who already do cold email. They know, the problem that we solve. And of course they kind of we have a lot more success with this category. But when we reach out to business owners of the small B2B companies with exactly the same offer, they sometimes don't understand, like, what you're talking about. Setting up mailbox literally takes 2 minutes. They just don't know about this problem that you need, many of
Mhm.
them, and you don't want to set them up on your main domain. But many of them come, from this background.
Mhm.
And if I say I'm gonna, set up hundreds of mailboxes in less than 5 minutes, it's just, it doesn't resonate with them. So we had to come up with something else for, B2B business owners. um, and we start iterating on the product offer for them specifically, and we did so many attempts before we found something that's working, actually working. We see, based on the numbers, okay, this is scalable. We can send, whatever number of emails,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be successful. um, so like, your offer is number one thing that you can adjust. I have good and bad news. Bad news is that you never know what's going to work. So, like, the
Mhm.
any brilliant idea that you you have probably won't work. And the funny enough is that the most stupid idea you would never bet on will work the best. I don't know how it works. It's just like we run into the similar situation. It's like when my team shared with me the offer that worked the best, and it outperformed everything that we sent. I was like, it's a stupid idea. like
It's human nature, it's like you can't ever really know
yeah,
the idiosyncrasy or the
yeah,
nuances of personality and inside
yeah,
certain roles or whatever. That's what's so
yeah,
challenging for marketers.
yeah, exactly. So, so if you really want to, to make it work, I would advise to experiment on this. And if you run less than 20 experiments, you didn't do anything. So, like, the more experiments you run, the better. Um, so that should be your number one goal when you're just starting. Like, what's type of product offer would work the best, and you will see the one that works. That's for sure.
Well,
Um,
what's interesting about this advice is that it goes right back to what you did when you launched. You validated before you launched your product.
yeah,
Um, and so when you validated your product and what you would tell other people to do, what volume is experimenting and validation? Is that hundreds of people or thousands of people, or how do you know when you've hit something that you can then scale?
like, for example, right now, after just 5 calls with potential customers, they didn't end up buying, but I see, okay, so this is workable. We can
Mhm.
build the sales process and close them. I clearly see by first 10 minutes of conversation how it goes, how we, like, what the follow up. They ask follow up questions after the call. They connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm like, I see. Okay, so these are the good signs. It means, like, this is the direction we should go. So the only just a handful of conversations for me is enough. But ideally, you want to see how many people will end up buying your product. And so
So validating all the way to a sale.
ideally, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Sometimes it's impossible. There are some categories where you cannot do this, but you will see other signals, like people really interested in what you say, not just like,
Mhm.
yeah, send me more info, but they really
Yeah.
interested. our on the website, our biggest plan cost like $2,000, and it's nothing comparing to, like, let's say you would run Facebook ads.
Yeah.
$2,000, it's nothing. Like,
Nothing. Yeah.
yeah,
Or Google ads or hiring a salesperson or any of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. And then, and still, like, and the thing that, you know, makes all the difference is that people who do this successfully, they always ask question, how can I 10x this, how can I
Hmm.
100x this. So
Hmm.
just they asking like how to scale it. um, and then, you know, like if you start asking yourself like this question, you will end up, you know, okay, so this is the bottleneck right now for me. This is the bottleneck. A lot of those bottlenecks Maildoso can help you to just eliminate and help you to scale. There are a lot of others, like, for example, sales process might be, like, you know, salespeople, it might be very tough to, like, very difficult to hire a lot of salespeople.
Hmm.
Sometimes you need to innovate here. A lot of our clients use AI.
Hmm.
A lot of, I also seen a few cases where just simple autoresponders, no AI, nothing, just like if then, but very well built, works insanely well.
Hmm.
We also, because our one of the recent things that we introduced is group demo. It just because our sales team, they, their calendars, they just, there is no empty space there,
Hmm.
and our marketing team came up with this idea. Okay, so let's run group demos. Most of the customers, they ask the same questions, and we
Hmm.
can, you know, just similar to webinars. And
Yeah.
it's actually, we can, maybe we can switch. Maybe we will switch to webinars one day.
Sure.
So the basically, just ask yourself like, how can I 10x it, and you will, you know, find an answer how to get to the point where, you know. And for each business, it's like so the things that I mentioned to you is just, it's it's on the, you know, supply side, like
Hmm.
how your sales team um, will handle this.
Hmm.
If you, so some people struggle with actually getting their emails to inboxes, and this is something that we helping them
Hmm.
with, and that's why they couldn't scale their cold email campaigns, because like every time they try to scale it, their reply rates go down. And this is where Maildoso is helpful, and we actually help. We have advisors, experts that will, that actually set up calls with our customers and explain, okay, if you want
Yeah.
to, you know, scale your campaigns, you should
Right.
really pay attention to this, that, and that. And then, you know, you just scale and it works.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be a bottleneck or a hurdle for adoption of your product, where customers sign on, they're excited about it, they start playing around with it, and then they hit a wall. So they need that a little bit more expertise, help to get them through getting it running. And
Yeah,
then you said you do some coaching too to help people, figure out exactly what to make work. I mean, that's invaluable to an organization that is trying to scale revenue or to grow revenue, to have that as sort of like a offsite team that's helping them with this channel. I think that's awesome.
yeah, yeah. That's true. And also the cold email in recent years become more and more affordable. So a lot more organizations start doing cold email, start doing
Mhm.
cold email successfully. Um, so
That's awesome. Hey, this has been an awesome conversation. I appreciate your time getting on here because I know you're packed on your schedule. Um, we want to send people your way. Obviously, we send it to maildoso.com. We'll put that in the description. Should we send them to you on LinkedIn, or where should we send them to get connected to you?
yeah, these days I'm the most active on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Anyone who's interested in learning how to do cold email successfully, you can follow me on LinkedIn. We also just launched our Slack community. I'm really happy about the type of conversations we have there. It's actually a very nice place to
That's
learn how
awesome.
to do
Is
cold
that
email.
for customers only?
No, anyone can join.
Okay, yeah, we need to know the link to that because I want to get into that personally.
Yeah, there is a lot of very interesting and very helpful conversations that going on
I
there.
bet.
I already like see the value.
Hmm.
But also, like sometimes it might be very helpful just to be in a group of people that do cold email
Hmm.
successfully, just to see that okay, this is possible. I can do this. So and just you know, uh, it can be yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. I definitely want to jump in on that. There's so much more to talk about here. I could go on for another half hour, but unfortunately, we got to cut it. So thanks again for coming on, and I hope that everybody that listens to this got a ton of value. I know I did personally. So thanks for that.
And thank you for inviting me. It was a very interesting conversation.